Okay, let's continue and talk about some other things that, as far as graphics are for your website. We just talked about backgrounds. Other things you might have on a website might be a banner across the top, a logo. If we look at my website or the West Valley website, this is a graphic right here. This is not HTML. How do I know what parts are of a website are graphics and not HTML? Is if you draw your cursor over top. Well, this website has a whole bunch of stuff, but if you drag your cursor, things that turn in blue like these is HTML, but this thing right here is a graphic. If I right click on it here, it would say save link as, or no, save view as background. This is a background image. That's why you can't see it. You can see it right here, and this is a graphic. So, again, this was made in Photoshop and put onto a website. Some things to consider will be dimension. If you look here, it's 800 by 103 is the pixels, and you can tell by when I opened it up in a new window. And to do that again, I just right-clicked on it and said View Background Image, and it showed you right here. And then you can actually save it if you want. Save image as and save it on your computer. So that's one way you can steal pictures from or graphics from other people's websites is by right-clicking and saving. Another thing that you might want to do when you're working on web graphics and things like that for your website might be to take a picture of the website and then save it and open it in Photoshop and measure things and do things like that. Like let's say I want to know how big this banner is across here. One way is if you're on Windows, you can hit the print screen key, which is in the upper right corner. If you're on a Mac, you can hold down the Apple Shift 3 and it'll take a picture and put it on your desktop for you, and you can open that up and it'll be called Picture 1 on your desktop, and you can open that up in Photoshop. But since I'm using a Windows right here, if I hit print screen and go over to Photoshop, I can say File New, just say File New, and it'll copy the dimensions you have. And if I hit OK, I can hit paste by hitting Control V, and it'll paste it. So once I have it inside of Photoshop, you can see it took an entire picture of everything that we have, and you can see my recording software here. And once I have it in Photoshop, then I can do things like measure and you got rulers. You can see how big things are with the rulers. And if you don't see rulers inside of Photoshop, you can go under View Rulers. View Rulers will pop up the rulers so you can see, and everything's usually measured in pixels on a website. So that's why I'm using Photoshop. I'm measuring things in pixels. You can see the pixels right here across the top in a ruler, so you could use that to calculate how big things are. The thing I want to talk about next is actually pictures. As you can see right here, this is a picture right here done for a web page, and this is measured by dimension here. So one thing I could do is I would say, oh, I love the size of this photo right here, and I want to put a picture about the same size on my website. Well, I could draw a box using the rectangle marquee tool around that picture that I found on somebody else's website. In this case, a West Valley website, and I can hit copy by hitting Control C on the keyboard, and if I say File New, it'll tell me the dimensions. This is probably 600 by 200. I think it's a little big. So you can see 600 by 200. So when you hit copy, you draw the rectangle marquee around something and then hit copy. It saves the dimensions that you've copied, and then you can paste, and you can see the picture is here. So you can see the picture all by itself, and then I could save that and put it on my website if I really wanted to. But I don't want that on my website. I'm just going to use a picture of I'm working on a website for a new movie that we've been working on, me and some of the other teachers, called The Telltale Note. Okay, and so I made some graphics, and I want to put a picture that is in this area right here. Maybe not the entire area, but maybe just a part of the area. I'm thinking of maybe putting a photo, let's say right about here. And maybe over here a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Somehow around this size right here. So I could draw a box like you see there, and if I had some data in there, I don't know if it's gonna let me copy. Yeah, there's no, it's a transparent right there. Well, I could bring in a photo and then crop it to the size I want. So if I hit File Open, let me open a picture up. If I can find it. Here's a photo, and this one is actually already been shrunk down to 250 it looks like by almost 350. So here's a picture that we could use on our website, and it's already been shrunk down to a pretty small size, as you could see here. If I dragged it onto my layout here, you could see it right there. So again, if I have it in my layout, I could shrink it down. There is a transform tool when you were using it. Show transform. If you're using the move tool right here, you can show some transform tools, and you can grow and shrink things and things like that. So maybe I could shrink it down so it's aligned up with the bottom of this buttons right here. So and once you move or transform anything inside of Photoshop, you can hit the move tool again and then hit apply, and it'll take the effect. Another thing that I usually do if I'm going to work with photos on a website is, let me just open one from my digital camera. So if I open up a picture, and I think I have some pictures from last weekend somewhere on my computer. And so here's some plain pictures from last weekend. Let's see. Let me open one up. The Pinnacles. Somewhere in the Pinnacles I have pictures of the Pinnacle Mountains. Okay, here's one. And it is in black and white, so we'll open up the color version. And here it is. And it's opening up in the RAW format because I shot this with the RAW format, and I can do some, you know, some highlights and exposure, a little bit too exposed, and change some variations. But let's open it in Photoshop because I'm more important with size and stuff. So at this point, I have a photo right here that I am going to put on my website. The problem right now is that this is straight from my digital camera. So if I look and take a picture straight from my digital camera, you'll notice it's 3,180 or 3,800 pixels across by 2,400 or 500 pixels, and it's 28 megabytes. You can see it right here. That'd be way too big. It'd probably take up the entire web page. Okay, so some of the things you need to do when you're working with pictures is shrink them down a little bit so that the dimension of the pixels are smaller, as well as the resolution. If you remember from our discussion in previous videos, we talked about 72 dpi as being the size. So if I'm working with photos inside of Photoshop and I want to put them on my website, I need to think about what size I'm going to make them and things like that. You might do some color correcting. I pretty much do on every photo I take under adjustments. I adjust the levels as well as the highlight and shadow. These are two under image adjustments, levels, to get the contrast a little higher. I move the little triangles in, and you can see before, after, before, after. And then the highlight and shadow, I tend to use that a lot. Not too much, just a little bit so it's not too crazy. Before, after, brings out some detail in the shadow areas. Okay, so some of the things you could do is, how do I know what size to put this on my website? Again, one of the problems you have is with the normal digital cameras, too big. One way to shrink them down would be to go underneath image size. Under image size, you get the image size window up, and you can change the resolution. The first thing you would probably do is change it to 72. Once I change it to 72, you'll see the width and height automatically change because they're all linked together, all these data. Then I can change the width and height. So if I wanted this to fit within, let's say, a 250 or 300 pixel high area, I could type in 300 there, and you'll see the width changes automatically. Or maybe let's do 250. There we go, and then I can hit OK, and it'll shrink my picture down. You say, wow, look how tiny it is. I'll never be able to see that on my website. Well, again, remember the zoom factor we were talking about in previous videos up here. When it's at 100%, this is the size it'll be on your website. So if I zoom in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is what size it would be on my website. So to wrap up this whole discussion here, changing the size of your photo using dimensions, going under image size is an easy way to go to change it so that it fits on the page the size you want inside of Dreamweaver or whatever HTML type of thing that you're doing. Let me undo that for a moment. Okay, you'll see here at 100%, this is how big it would be on my website. Look at this. Woo! You'd never be able to see it. It's very big on your website. Okay, so that's at 100%. It'd take up way too much space. Another way to change the dimensions of a picture for your website might be to use the crop tool, which is this one right here. Using the crop tool, you can actually type in the exact dimensions you want. So if I say I want to make this 300 pixels px wide by 250 pixels px for pixels here at 72 dpi, right here is the resolution. That's up here when you're using the crop tool in the top toolbar here. Then I can draw a box around what I want. Okay, and when I draw a box around what I want using the crop tool and drawing a box around what I want, I can hit enter on the keyboard, and then this is the exact dimension that I need for my website also. And if you look at it 100, you see it's cropped a little bit. It might be the right size you want. So using the crop tool, typing in the sizes you want and resolution you want, and then drawing a box will give you the exact size you want for your website. So again, even if you're using any program inside of Dreamweaver, you need to know what size you're using to put your pictures into Dreamweaver.